Okay, so I did say that I hadn't done anything to the exterior other than a few points, but I did neglect to mention that when I did receive the truck, within a year the hood had sunburn, which is not uncommon on southern vehicles. The clear coat, if it's not a good quality clear coat, will start to flake on you, and you'll end up having to deal with that, and most people have seen those before. So I did sand this hood down. It was match painted to the rest of the vehicle, so that is the only thing externally that I've done from a paint perspective. But something else that's really cool about this truck that I love is the engine bay is still OD green as it was issued in 1970, and the paint on it is actually in really, really great shape. In addition to that, the invoice or the stock number that's applied to the vehicle is still here in spray paint and has not been touched either. So when they did repaint it, they had the common sense not to ruin this and lose the provenance on it, which I thought was great. So let me talk about some of the stuff that I've done to the truck. If you're a Scout owner, you know you don't buy these things with the intent that you're going to run them and never do anything to them. So I'll give you a list of some of the stuff that I've gone through. So it started when I got the vehicle. It didn't run terribly well, so I went ahead and rebuilt the carburetor, and it's a Weber 2-barrel that's on here, which is not a common, an uncommon swap that you see on these 196 engines. Also rebuilt the entire fuel line system, so you see a regulator and a gauge, and it's got a fuel pump all the way in the back as well. The tank was just recently cleaned as a final step in that, and a filter added, so that is all complete now. The vehicle did come to me with Hydro Boost. I assume that this is something that the military did, so power steering and power brakes. So the front's been converted to disc brakes, so it is safe to drive as well. The rear still does have its pad brakes on it, and they work great, and I'll show you that in the driving video. Along the way, as I went through system by system, you can see as I rework the engine, it's got all new wires in it, new plugs. It's got a Protonic system in it now, so there's no points to deal with. Radiator was replaced. I replaced the hoses. The head cover came off to fix one of the leaks that these have, and they have many leaks. And then at the same time, the oil pan was done with a new seal as well, so that's been resealed. Let's see what else. We've got a new alternator in here that was put in, a new starter. The new starter system's been rewired, and then somewhere along the lines, I accidentally cut a green wire. And if you've ever owned one of these things, you know if you cut one green wire, you got to cut them all. So this whole thing's been rewired over the past, well, not these past couple of years. In the second and third year, it was completely rewired from front to back. So it's got a modern electronic system in it today. There are a couple of additional points behind the box. The only rust I've seen, and I don't believe that it's rust, I believe it was acidic burn. Behind there is a crack, and I did post a picture of it from the underside. You can see it goes right through the wheel well. It doesn't occur on the other side, so my suspicion here is that somewhere in the 70s, when they were using acid batteries, they leaked over time and ultimately started eating away at that. As you can see, there is a new battery tray that's been welded in here to cover that and support the battery that's in here today. Other than that, I'm sure there's a dozen other things I've done in here. I just don't remember what they were because, like I said, it was a driver and it would only come off the road for a month or two during the winter, and I got as much done as I could, and then it had to be back together in time for my wife to get her first drive in by March. So anyway, that's the engine. Let's take a walk and we'll move on to the interior. All right, so the interior was pretty much torn up and a mess by the time I received it. Outside of the initial paint having been done, and it looks like they painted a lot of the interior as well, but not well. There was a lot more overspray than there was solid paint. I took it upon me during one of those winters to actually just retool the interior altogether. So essentially, the dash was fixed up, and they had painted over a lot of this, so I had to find some of the new silver and components to actually highlight it. I've replaced all the gauges. These are all new gauges as well, and it's all done in gunmetal black. I replaced the makeshift cigarette lighter, which now has an amp meter, a voltage meter, and it has two different charging blocks for USB. And then it didn't have a radio. It had been taken out, so what I've installed here is a dashboard radio that actually has a 7-inch pop-up screen on it as well, and all the features that you'd want for your Apple iPhone. That's why I have these mounts here. These are suction cup only, so they can pop right off. But essentially, it gives you all the tools and everything you'd want. It's a standard great stereo. Now the rest of the stereo system itself is a 7-speaker Rockford Fosgate, because anyone who knows me knows that I just want it to run, I want it to stop, and I need a killer sound system in it, and this certainly has it. I love that about it. There's sound deadening only in the front wells, and then there's carpeting throughout as well, just for a little more comfort. And like I said, some of the new features that I've added here is a horn that actually is a button here. Whoop, and I put a couple of horns in there. And the orange light is actually the brake safety light. This one's non-functional. The turn signal's been moved to the center so I could actually see them through the wheels, because the original one put it on the outside. And other than that, all the stuff works. The light switches, the wiper switch, choke works, the heater works, and even that works. In addition, I replaced the interior for the glove box as well. And all the foam, like I said, the foam and the seats were completely redone on these as well. I did find gray matching seat belts and buckles, so they all work great as well. Like I said, it's been lived in, it's been worked in, it's been played in. The seats do have some stains. They do have some wear. There's no tears in any of these seats. They're just not old enough. The tuck and roll is probably about 3 years old. I'd estimate the paint's probably 10. But if you're looking for a vehicle that you want to just drive every day, this is going to do it for you, and you're going to be really happy with it. If you're looking for a vehicle to rebuild, I don't think you'll ever find a better body than what this has available to you. And all the parts are here as well. Like I said, all the vents are working. There's probably nothing that doesn't work properly on this truck in one way or another. All the vent windows do actually work as well. It does have the dash pad. Obviously it had cracks, as most of them do, so we had that refinished with the baseball stitching to match the seats in the same leather, and the same thing with the sun visors as well. And I don't know what else I can really tell you about it. We'll take a quick walk to the trunk here. I'll show you that. A lot of times these vehicles won't stay closed. This trunk has the dual level, so you can open it here and still be able to open your trunk or your cap lid and be able to utilize the back end. Or it does have the slider on it that can drop flat as well. It does lock and latch. I've never had a problem with it at all. I've also never replaced the lock on it, but I do have a spare lock. If somebody wants to put the lock on here and make it functional, it's key to the door locks as well. Other than that, on the rear end here, it's new plastic and whatnot on the lighting system. And gosh, I don't know what else to tell you that I don't have in the pictures already, but if you're interested in seeing it run and drive, I'll be making the drive and run video, and you should see that probably right nearby this one. All right.